Yo guys, it's Taras, and in today's video, I want to explain how you can use Keepass to boost your security. And Keepass is a free password manager software. It's open source, free to use. Definitely recommend dropping a donation to the developer if you do find it useful. But first, I want to just quick talk about what is the problem that we're trying to solve by using Keepass and a password manager in general. And that problem is that you've got too many passwords. If you reuse the same password for different applications, you run into an issue where if one of them gets hacked or compromised, then all of the other ones are hacked and compromised. And if you use different ones, then of course it becomes a nightmare to remember them. So that's why we're going to use a password manager. So we just have to use one long complex password, and we don't need to worry about remembering 100 different passwords with different complexity and which one goes with which application. So let's go ahead and dive right into our presentation here. So the first thing you want to do is download and install Keepass. You can get it from the official site or from SourceForge. And then also the mobile app, you can get it on Google Play or your Apple App Store, whatever it is that you're using. I'd love to eventually de-Google my phone myself, but I'm not at that level quite yet. Next, the thing that you want to do is pick out your master password. And so you're going to want to use a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. You're going to want to use uppercase and lowercase letters. And the challenge with a good master password is that you want it to be long, complex, but also memorable. Try to avoid writing down a hard copy. A temporary file is fine. And then you want to practice it because practice, of course, makes perfect. So the example that I have right here is I just busted open my Notepad++ one day, and this is what I came up with for the master password for this sample database that we're going to do. And so you can see I have a couple recipes open, one for roasted parsnips and the other for spaghetti squash. So I combined that. I made sure to use both cases of letters, a couple of symbols, and a number. I could do better with using numbers here, but this is a good starting point for master password as it's long, it's complex, and it's memorable. So next, let's take a look at how to actually use Keepass. So we're going to want to create a new database and save it where we can find it. In this case, D program data Keepass is the file path that I would normally use. And that's just like a Windows file path where I can consistently find it. And then we're going to want to write down an emergency sheet to recover our database in case something happens and we can't remember our master password. And you're going to want to note the directory structure to how entries are stored. So let's take a look at how we do that in practice. So I'm going to pop open Keepass over here, and we're going to go to File, New. All right. Cool. So here's our file path that I mentioned. I guess it's E for my external hard drive. Program data Keepass, and I'm going to call this sample. All right, so now we're going to need to get our master password, and in this case I have it saved in Notepad++. Again, in practice you don't want to have a hard copy like this. You can do like a temporary thing, but I would generally make sure to delete or destroy your hard copy of your password and just commit it to memory. And one thing about Notepad++, you can just, it's a text editor. You can keep writing, so you can just go ahead and practice. But in my case, since I'm keeping it simple, I'm not going to necessarily do that right now. And we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste it around. Okay, again, we're going to call this a sample database because I'm just feeling simple. And you can enter in a description, and that might be relevant if you have multiple of these. Like, let's say you have one for personal use and another one that's like for your work. So something like that. We can take a quick look at the security. So there's some customizable encryption. I'm not going to mess with that. You can customize the compression, the recycle bin. I don't think that's really relevant to our interests right now. And then you can do some template stuff. You can customize how often it'll recommend you to change your master key. So 182 days, that's about half a year. And that seems like a good setting. Force change the master key within 365 days, a year. Seems good. Okay, and then we can take a look at this emergency sheet really quick. So over here, I'm just going to print it to PDF since I don't actually have a printer. Documents, sure. Let's just call it sample Keepass ES for emergency sheet so we can move on with our lives here. Okay, let's just take a quick look at what that looks like. Well, first let's take a look here at our sample database, and I'll hit Control S right away just to save it as is. But you can see we have got a couple of sample entries in here, and you can also note the directory structure up here. We've got sample is the name of our database, and under that we have these folders: General, Windows, Network, Internet, Email, Home, Banking. And you can probably add some categories, some groups. So to do that, I just right click. And of course, this user interface is going to be different like on mobile or Apple or Linux, but I'm just showing you guys the Windows version for now. All right, so I went and tracked down my Keepass sample emergency sheet since I wasn't sure where it was the first time. So let's take a look at it here right now. Cool. So you can literally print this out and then write down your master password. And then you can also write down where the backups are stored. And I'm sure you can edit this stuff digitally too. It's just I'm not super familiar with interacting with PDFs and such myself. So in a real world case, I guess I would write it down and have this with my other important documents, like your crypto recovery sheet or what have you, so you can figure out what to do with it in case you forget your password. All right, now that we've taken a look at our emergency sheet, let's get back to adding and editing new entries. Editing, that's a fun one. So when you add a new entry, you can customize your username. You can customize how the password's generated. You can set application URL, and then at the end, remember to save your changes. So let's take a look at what that looks like in practice here with our Keepass database. All right, so let's add an entry under home banking. So I'm right clicking to add this entry, and of course Windows makes a lovely noise at me. We're going to call this one Vegeta Bank, just keeping in our vegetable theme. Our username is going to be Kakarot in honor of our good buddy from Dragon Ball Z. The URL is going to be vegetabank.com. Very well-established, very well-known bank, of course. So we can show our password and now we can copy it. But in this case, let's dig into our password generator. As you can see, it's 20 characters, and it also gives us a description in bits of 98 bits, which probably isn't relevant to our interests, but it might be. So as you can see, it's just upper lowercase letters and digits right now. So let's add in a couple of special characters. We've got some options with the minus, the underline. Let's add in brackets also. So you can see we can customize our password requirements. And let's take a look at what it did. So we've got a star in there. We've got some symbols. We've still got some numbers in there, both cases of letters. So this is a great complex password that I don't want to remember. So I'm glad it's going to be saved in here. And so we can copy it, and then we would be able to hop over to our bank page's website and go ahead and log in as Kakarot in there. Okay, so we add our entry and we do a Control S to save. And you can see it's in this home banking category, and you can navigate over to there and look at other tabs. Looks like we've got a couple of these just dumb sample entries that are irrelevant, but that's all you need for editing and adding entries. And then you can copy your usernames and passwords from the entry and again paste it to your application questions. You can edit the entry similar to adding it. And I recommend you close and reopen your database various times to practice your master password. So I can show you what that looks like right now. So we're going to close our database, open it back up. So you can see my keepass.db is where I would, that's sort of the production data that I normally use for my passwords. And in this case, because we're lazy, we're going to copy and paste the password from our Notepad++. But in your case, dear viewer, go ahead and practice the password yourself. But you can see it loaded it just fine. Here's our entry for Vegeta Bank that we can copy username, copy password, open the URL so you can go straight there to vegetabank.com. I have no idea what it looks like over there. I'm just kind of messing around. Anyway, you can synchronize and share your Keepass database by uploading it to the cloud. Sort of using cloud services is going to be outside the scope of this tutorial, but I recommend using Proton Drive. You can also use like Google Drive or Dropbox, and then you can do this to synchronize your data across your devices. Like I've got a laptop, I've got a desktop, I've got a mobile device, things like that, whatever you need. Oh, and I didn't mention about sharing, but sharing, it's the same way. If you want to share your Netflix account with your mom, put all your streaming services in Keepass. You can make a separate file that you want to share and then have a master password that both you and your mom or your friends, whatever, know. And you can just go ahead and share it that way. Again, that might be a little against terms of service, but you're going to want to look that up on your own. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe the video if you found this content valuable. That's going to be the end of our series on password management and Keepass. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and check out my website in the description. Like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitch. Thanks everyone for watching. Peace out.